Alrighty, so let's do a little bit of a news of the week kind of video, and then I of course would be talking about the U.S. Men's National Team September call-up, which was announced today. And just like last week, there wasn't really a lot of news that happened this week, although last week I kind of rushed the news of the week kind of episode with me not talk about a lot of the important news that happened in the previous week because I had to do it very quickly. This week, it was just the fact that there wasn't really a lot of news that happened this week that is worthy of me talk about in the news of the week episode. Although this week, for the second week in a row, we do have a coach that has been hired by a new team, and I know Dynamo fan was getting excited when they hear that there was a new coach that got hired in this week. But unfortunately, their excitement kind of died down when they realized that it wasn't their team, that they got a new head coach, and that the new head coach that got hired this week was Fraser, who has become the new head coach of the Colorado Rapids. Now, this is kind of an interesting kind of signing because I remember the Rapids was very heavily interest in Fraser, and then it kind of just died down a little bit of their interest of getting Fraser, and that they were maybe looking for another candidate. But now all of a sudden, a couple of days ago, they just announced that Fraser is their new head coach. Now, Fraser, obviously, I know a lot of people are gonna say that he wasn't a very good head coach, and that when you look at what happened at Chivas USA, he was absolutely terrible as a head coach in MLS. But here's the thing. I think that's too harsh to judge the fact that Fraser is not a very good head coach, considering the fact that he was taking a Chivas USA team that was in deep trouble in terms of financial issue, and that he basically had no control of his team, and that he at some point he had to really just experiment with the team because he didn't get a chance to get the players that he really wants to be in the team, and that ultimately it kind of led to a failure and led to his firing. So I don't think it's going to happen with him going with the Rapids. I mean, I know the Rapids has been one of those teams that's known for not spending a lot of big money on big players, but recently they've been spending a lot of money on players in these last transfer window, and that some of them of course did work out, some of them didn't quite work out whatsoever, and I think maybe this is where it's going to be really up to Fraser to now that he has the second chance where he needs to get this right in terms of signing a couple of players that he needs to fix this team. I mean, I don't think the Rapids is actually a very bad team. I mean, I know they're at the bottom of the Western Conference, but the reason why they've been kind of glued in the bottom of the Western Conference was all because of that 11-game winless run. Have they not gone on that 11-game winless run, I think this team would have been one of those teams that is going to be challenged for the playoffs. And the way that they've been playing since the 11-game winless run, they look like they could be right on the borderline of being competitive and being a playoff team. And that I really think that when you look at talent-wise on this team, I really think the only thing that they might be missing is on the defensive end, where they still kind of look a little bit shaky. But other than that, I think their attacker is very good, and I think their midfield at times could be one of the best midfield in MLS. And it's all up to Fraser now to make sure that he identify what is the biggest weakness, which I think might be the defense with this team, and hopefully, of course, he can fix this up, and that next season when he does come in, well, he's going to be coming in right after the next game the Rapids play, but I know for this remaining part of the season, he's just trying to figure stuff out and basically try to bring in his kind of tactics and philosophy for the team. But hopefully when he realizes what is wrong with this team, he of course will figure it out in the off season, and if all things goes out, he could definitely be a very successful manager with the Rapids, but we shall see if that is the case. Now, the Rapids, when they announced Fraser as their new head coach, they also announced that Connor Casey is going to be leaving the Colorado Rapids, and this one actually really surprised me, considering the fact that I thought Connor Casey has done a great job as an interim head coach, and after taking over Anthony Hudson that was fired a couple of months ago, and I thought that he was at least going to be stay as an assistant head coach, but apparently that is not the case, and that he is actually just going to leave the Rapids, and that I have a feeling with what he has done with the Rapids and how during his time, like he won like 7 out of 13 games with the Rapids, and that, you know, it's very rare you see a head coach that actually gets a winning record against or a winning record when taking over the Rapids. So I have a feeling some teams might think about trying to hire him. Obviously, one team that I can instantly think that could definitely hire Connor Casey is the Dynamo, who currently does not have a head coach right now. But we shall see whether if Connor Casey is going to be becoming a new coach of one of the MLS team, or is he going to maybe even try to go overseas to coach a little bit. Now, moving on into the next news is we have a signing. So just because the transfer window is closed doesn't mean teams can not announce signing, and that the only thing is, team of course can still announce signings, but they know that they will not get that player until the transfer window reopens. And in this case, for Nashville, they of course signed Hani Mukhtar as their first ever DP with a $3 million transfer fee from Brøndby. Mukhtar, of course, will stay with Brøndby until the end of the season because, like I said, transfer window doesn't open until after the season is over, and until when it's open, that's when he, of course, can join the team. And also the fact that, you know, he's not going to just leave Brøndby to join a Nashville team that haven't even got play a single game in MLS before. So, yeah, you know, this is definitely an interesting kind of signing. I mean, I don't know a lot about Hani Mukhtar. I have heard some people say that he was very decent when he was with Brøndby a couple of years ago. I also have heard some people that said that he is kind of inconsistent in the last couple of seasons. And, you know, I look at some of the stats that he has, and apparently I think he had like 18 goals and 25 assists throughout those throughout the last 3 seasons with Brøndby, which is not a bad kind of number, but at the same time, is it kind of DP worthy level number for an attacking player? I don't know. I mean, we shall see what happens when he does join this team, and we'll see if he, of course, can definitely make an impact with this Nashville team. I mean, right now, a lot of people are saying Nashville could potentially be the next FC Cincinnati, considering the fact that they've been kind of being a little bit conservative with some of their signings and trying to sign guys that are kind of mediocre with good teams that is right now in MLS. So, yeah, hopefully that, of course, is not the case. I mean, surely these upcoming expansion team has learned the lesson that FC Cincinnati is trying to learn right now, is you don't just decide to sign bunch of conservative, bunch of kind of defensive mid player and think that you are going to come into the first season with success. That, of course, is not going to happen. Now, the other news that happened this week, and actually happened today, is that MLS have released their playoff schedule. Now, the playoff schedule, as I'm going to just open up right now, I'm going to tell you when exactly it's going to happen. It is actually going to be happening right on, let me see. It's going to be happening right on October 19, which is about 2 weeks after Decision Day. And that of course, is the knockout round. It also will happen on October 20th, and I probably should have said October 19th and October 20th is when the knockout round, of course, happened. I do not know why this computer keeps closing this browser right here, so I'm going to just reopen it. All right, there we go. So, yeah, the knockout round will happen on the weekends of October 19th and October 20th. But this is where things get a little bit weird, and this is where I know a lot of fans are not happy with this playoff schedule. Because after the knockout round, the winner of the knockout round will only get 3-day rest before they, of course, play the conference semifinal on the 23rd and the 24th. And then for the conference final, it's going to be the following week, where it's also going to be in the middle of the week, and it's going to be on October 29th and October 30th, before MLS Cup is going to be happening 10 days after the conference final, and it will be happening on a Sunday on November 10th, and it's going to be happening at 3 p.m. Eastern Time and 12 p.m. Pacific Time. And that, for me, I like the fact that MLS Cup is once again on a Sunday, and I like the fact that it is going to be a day kickoff because, for the last couple of MLS Cup, it's been at night times, and one of the things that I do not like with MLS Cup being at nighttime, especially during this part of the season, is that it's freezing cold in December. Well, now of course it's in November because the schedule of course move up. But if you look at the last couple of years, like besides last year when it was played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which they of course have a dome stadium, but I remember when they play at Toronto, that of course was a 4 p.m. kickoff, and that was also freezing cold. And then even the previous year, they even take it to the extreme and decided to kick the game off at 8 p.m. and it was also freezing cold during that time. So I like the fact that MLS realized that, you don't want to kick off night games when it's going to be freezing cold at nighttime, and especially if there is going to be if the MLS Cup is going to be hosted by an Eastern Conference team, weather is going to be an issue, and that you just cannot host a final game in like 20 degrees kind of weather. Now, having said that, the thing that I do not like about this playoff schedule, and as many people has brought up, is that there is too many midweek games in terms of the schedule. And I know the TV ratings for midweek games surprisingly has actually been better than weekend games, but the problem is, for midweek games, one of the biggest problem, and if not the biggest problem of why a lot of fans hate midweek games, and me included, is because it's a work day, and that not a lot of people actually go to those games, which means that there's going to be poor attendance that is happening. And especially when you decided, the other issue with midweek games in the playoffs is that means now that away fans will not really be a big presence, because I'm pretty sure a lot of fans that is going to be traveling to watch their team play away, and that they now of course have to take even an extra day or two off because of the game that's going to be happening in the middle of the week. And let's say if that team of course advances to the conference final, they're going to have to do the same thing, and I'm pretty sure some fans are not going to be taking a day or two off in 2 straight midweek. I mean, that is just absolutely ridiculous. So it also kind of hurts in terms of the away attendance in terms of the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, overall it's not a good situation. And I also understand why they decided to put in the middle of the week, besides TV ratings, is that they don't want a conflict in terms of NFL games and also college football games that is happening during the weekend action. But at the same time, if you put, like, I know during the 29th and 30th, I heard that of course is going to be taking the same day as the World Series. So you're still going to be conflict in terms of a big kind of game in another sports. And the fact that, just because you're going to be conflict with the NFL, I doubt that it's going to be a bit of a problem. I mean, the NFL is such a big kind of audience that I feel like there's not going to be a huge drop in terms of the TV ratings if these games are going to be taking place on the weekend. So yeah, hopefully, you're not going to have, hopefully the team that you of course support is going to make the playoffs will not be having to go on the road for the conference semifinal, for the conference final, because that will really sucks when you can't really like go to the stadium to support them, and that you have to fly out in the middle of the week. But unfortunately, that of course is how the schedule is made, and I'm pretty sure MLS probably going to fix it next thing. Like, seriously, they gotta fix that kind of schedule. Like, they have a perfectly balanced 4-week kind of period where they can just put like the conference final, the conference semifinal, and the knockout round all on the weekend, and yet they decided to not do that and decided to just choose the the weirdest kind of way, which is just put all those midweek kind of game. And I also heard that there's some people that say the reason why they don't put these game on weekend games is that, let's say if Seattle and Atlanta of course host a home game, then they of course will be conflicted with the football team, the Seahawks and the Falcons playing at the stadium. But for me, I would just say if that of course is going to be the case, then how about if both of those teams, if like both of these teams play in a playoff round, and that their city football team is going to be playing on that same weekend, then why not let's just play a MLS game on a Friday, and then the football team can of course play on a Sunday. I mean that's theoretically possible, and yet somehow MLS cannot figure that out, and that they of course put this kind of schedule. But that being said, let's now talk about the U.S. men's national team call. Oh, one more thing before we start talking about the U.S. men's national team September call-up. There was a report that suggests Darlington Nagbe. I didn't even write his name here. Silly me. But Darlington Nagbe has turned down the U.S. men's national team call-up, and apparently he turned it down because of family reason. And I know that there are some people that are not happy with what Darlington Nagbe did, and that they are not happy the fact that, you know, you're in the best form of your life. Why in the world are you not representing your country, and that all you do is just representing your club, and that you of course will still get family time even in the off season? To me, I think the reason why Nagbe does this is obviously for family, but for those people that say that family issue is just an excuse of a player of getting turned down a U.S. men's national team call-up, seriously, you really need to get checked out, because I feel like many people don't realize that these players are actually human, and that they're not machine, and that they actually have a life outside of soccer. And that, you know, I know Darlington Nagbe, from what I have heard from Portland fans when he was with the Timbers, is that he really have a family first kind of mentality, and that he has that kind of mentality bigger than most player would usually have. And I know from what we heard, Darlington Nagbe has to take care of a lot of family member, which is why he decided to turn down this offer so that he can get closer to his family doing international break. But you know, at the same time, like I said, you know, I don't see why that is something that he is not allowed to do, and that I don't see why that should not be a excuse for not of course playing with the U.S. men's national team, because after all, family always comes first, and that, you know, these player has life outside of soccer, and that I feel like people are just taking this the wrong way in terms of seeing how, oh, he's using the family as an excuse of not actually getting decided to join with the U.S. men's national team. Now, that being said, let's actually talk about the U.S. men's national team September call-up. There's going to be 26 players that, of course, call up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, of course, talk about all those players that is going to be in this call-up. But during the time when I, of course, announce those players that is going to be in this call-up and going to be in the squad for these friendly, I'll just make some comments of whether or not if they deserve to be in the U.S. men's national team. So we start off with Jesse Gonzalez. He is going to be called up as a goalkeeper, and I believe this is really one of the first time that Jesse Gonzalez actually got called up by the U.S. men's national team. You know, he's definitely been in a very good form with FC Dallas this season, and he's been arguably one of the most underrated goalkeeper in MLS right now. So he of course gets called up by the U.S. men's national team. Brad Guzan of course also gets called up. You know, veteran goalkeeper. You know, this one definitely is a no-brainer of him getting called up by Greg Berhalter. Then you got Sean Johnson, and Zach Steffen is going to be called up by the U.S. men's national team in the September friendly. And again, both of these players have been called up before, so in terms of the goalkeeper pool, I'm not really that surprised in terms of some of these call up, and I don't really see any guys that I can say that they don't really deserve or that they having a poor kind of season. Maybe Brad Guzan, who I think he's a decent goalkeeper, but I feel like there's just time where we are a little bit. He is a little bit overrated in terms of some people saying he's one of the best goalkeeper in MLS right now. Now, when you look at on the defensive side, we got John Brooks that got called up, and I believe he has been called up by the U.S. men's national team for the first time in a while because he did suffer that injury when the U.S. men's national team want to call him up back in January and back in the Gold Cup, but of course he was dealing with an injury during that time. Then you got Reggie Cannon and Sergino Des, which I have actually never heard of this player, but apparently he, of course, is playing with Ajax. And anytime if you're playing with Ajax, you know that this is definitely going to be a very talented player because Ajax is one, if not the best team in the world in terms of producing great young talent. Then we got Nick Lima that, of course, gets called up by the U.S. men's national team. I swear, Nick Lima, I really hope what Greg Berhalter does not just put him on the bench throughout this week or throughout these two friendly, because I know he hasn't done very well with the Quakes ever since he called up, and it seemed like he's just become the latest victim of a Quakes player getting called up by the national team, and then when they come back, they look absolutely awful. But hopefully that, of course, will not cause Nick Lima to not play a single minutes, because it's clear that his confidence level is just not there. And one way that I think his confidence will come back is that if he, of course, gets a chance with the U.S. men's national team, and that Berhalter, of course, will play him throughout these couple of games. And if he does have these good games in these friendlies, then maybe you could say that he can come back with the Quakes and that he can rediscover that confidence that he had in previous year. Then you got Aaron Long and Daniel Lovitz, Tim Reen, Mal Robinson, and Walker Zimmerman as your remaining defender on this called up. Again, I don't see any of these players that I feel they don't deserve getting called up. Maybe Nick Lima and Daniel Lovitz, consider both of them has kind of struggled in terms of them playing with their club team, but still, I think that's a pretty good, solid defensive core in terms of the call-up. Then in the midfield, you got Sebastian Lletget, Weston McKennie, Alfredo Morales, who I have actually never heard of this guy too, but apparently he's actually playing the same team that Zach Steffen currently plays, gets called up. Paxton Pomykal, I think this is probably his first senior cap after he of course has been with the U21 team, or is it the U21? Yeah, the U21 team or the U19 team with the U.S. men's youth national team. So it's good to see him getting a call up, and that he could definitely be the next best thing for the U.S. men's national team in terms of the midfield. Then you got Christian Rodin, Will Trapp, and Jackson Yeo getting called up for the U.S. men's national team for the very first time. And like what I said about Nick Lima, I hope with Jackson Yeo he doesn't just sit on the bench, and that once he comes back to the Quakes, he's not going to be another one of those Quakes player that gets caught by the national team, and then when they come back to the team, their confidence gets absolutely shot, and that they just do not perform very, very well. And that, out of these guys in the midfield, obviously Will Trapp is going to be the main guy that I always will point out that he probably shouldn't have gets called up, but I think the reason why he's keep getting these call up is because he is Berhalter guy. And I can say the same thing about Jarzy Zardes, who of course gets called up again in terms of the forward kind of slot in this called up. He's a he's a Greg Berhalter kind of guy, and that as much as we know that Jarzy Zardes, he's kind of a very frustrating player in terms of the U.S. men's national team, because we know that he has that kind of brilliance in terms of being a good U.S. men's national team striker, but then there's just times that he looked like one of the worst striker in the team, and that I don't know how in the world is he keep getting called up. But in terms of the forward position, we got Corey Bear, Tyler Boyd, Jordan Morris, Christian Pulisic, and Josh Sargent getting a called up in this U.S. Men's National Team September call up. I mean, I know a lot of people been wanted to see Josh Sargent in terms of that forward position, and that maybe he's gonna be one of the starters in terms of these friendly that is gonna be coming up. But yeah, in terms of the forward position, I know a lot of people have been saying Corey Bear shouldn't be getting called, but I'm guessing the reason why he's been getting called up is because he's been scoring goals in these last couple of games, and when you're a striker and you're scoring goals and you're in a very good form, chances are you do have a good chance in terms of getting called up by the national team. But overall, that's the called up in terms of for the September friendlies. These next couple of games are only friendlies and they're not really competitive match, but at the same time I think we definitely need to look at these games just as important as what we saw in the Gold Cup, because for this team I'm still very skeptical of whether or not if they are truly back and that they have really recovered after that disaster of a World Cup campaign just a couple of, well, not a couple of months, but back in last year. But we shall see. We still have a long way to go before the next World Cup, and that the qualifying I think doesn't start until 2021. So I think we're gonna still get one more Gold Cup during that time, and that next year in 2020 there's not gonna be any World Cup during that time, and that there's also not going to be a Gold Cup during that time. So this is really the time when Greg Berhalter might keep experimenting this team and hopefully finally find the teams that he likes, that he would think that he could take this team into qualifying and make sure that this U.S. team, of course, gets qualified into the World Cup heading into 2022. Because the last thing that we want to see it again is the U.S. men's national team failing to make the World Cups. Like that 2017 kind of World Cup qualifying run that we had. I hope we will never see that again, at least in my lifetime. I mean, it was absolutely shocking, the fact that the U.S. men's national team, with all those talent that they have, and yet they somehow find a way to not, of course, move on in terms of the hex and eventually gets to the World Cup. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Like I said before, in every time when I finish the Sport Top Series episode, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news, and if there's any news that I, of course, left out. And also let me know in the comments below what do you think of the call up for the U.S. men's national team. Do you think there are a couple of players that shouldn't be belonging there, and do you think there are a couple of snubs that should be belong with the national team heading into this September international break? But either way, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.